Hi there. My name is Jeremy Ginsberg. Welcome to this video where we will be discussing breathwork, in particular Wim Hof Method breathwork, as well as some other techniques, and how it combines, or even if it should be combined or not, with psychedelic substances. So, before I get into the content, I just want to say that this is me sharing my personal experience. I'm not a shaman, I'm not a doctor, and I'm not your guru. So I want you to take everything with a pinch of Himalayan sea salt and take what resonates for you. And as something I often tell my clients, listen for insights, not agreements. Because maybe you won't agree with everything I say, but maybe it can be insightful. Maybe it brings up a new challenge for me so I can learn from you. So I just want to put that out there first. Next, for those of you who like to experiment with plant medicines, teacher plants, psychotropic substances, breath work, other tools of elevating your consciousness, peak states, then this video is for you. I guess first, before I get into it, I'll just say from my experience, it is definitely safe to combine the Wim Hof Method breathwork with really any substance, as long as you follow the same guidelines and precautions you would with anything. You have to be extra careful when you're taking something else. In a sense, you are inviting more guests to the party, so you have to be more mindful around these things. But I found that to me, breath work is, it's a path of life. It's not like, I do it for 2 years and then you stop. So, without further ado, I will get into the substances that I've experimented with. I'll share my experience and then offer some suggestions, advice, insights around that. All right. So we will start with cannabis. That's right. Because it is a psychoactive substance in large amounts. But I guess first I'll go through the substance we'll go through. Cannabis, LSD or acid, ayahuasca, peyote, mushrooms, and those will be the main ones. There may be one other that will come up, but we'll start with those. So all right, first we'll start with cannabis, because I find that Wim Hof Method and marijuana cannabis goes really, really well together. Especially since cannabis is legal. I want to start with the legal substances in some parts of the world. It's beautiful because you're taking two things that are not as punishable by law, and you're allowing the chance to go deep within yourself and discover parts about yourself that a lot of people who may be setting the laws don't want you to to learn about yourself. So anyways, cannabis is great. I highly recommend, if you've been through the Wim Hof Method course, I highly recommend spirituality. I think it's week number 8. High on weed. It's amazing. From my experience, I don't smoke cannabis anymore. I only take it orally and ingest it. And that's because it's kind of contradictory to be smoking, which is bad for the lungs, and then doing breath work. And so if you really start to listen to your body, maybe you'll receive the similar message. But what I've done in the past and also suggest with clients is often do one round and then take a hit. Then do another round, then take a hit. And that way it breaks the pattern of a lot of people get into, just smoke weed, or just take 3 huge rips until you get super high. It allows you to slow down and really tune into your body, and then you maybe take some of the weed, take the substance, and then pause and do some breath work, which enhances the effects takes you into your body, cleans your lungs, so it's kind of like, all right, cough, and then, all right, I'll take care of you. So it's reestablishing a relationship with your lungs if you do choose to smoke, which, no judgment, I get it, it's awesome, it's fun. But the first time I ever hit a bong, I coughed for like 20 minutes straight. That was the first time I ever did breath work, I didn't even realize it. So the body is constantly giving us signals, and it's a greater way to go deeper after that. So weed, highly, highly recommend it. Obviously, if it's not legal, do it safely. It's also a great tool if you get the munchies, but you don't want to eat. Because what are the munchies? Really, it's a pattern. You're feeling emotional. Your body's got all these different substances, playing around. You get hungry. It's not your stomach saying we're hungry, it's your brain. And I guess I'm not so sure scientifically what exactly is going on. I'm not sure why I try to describe it. But it's a great alternative to do breath work when you have the munchies, because you'll feel way better, and then after you probably won't want to eat as much. So that was something for me, especially at night. I used to take weed and eat so much, and doing breath work is great. So the Wim Hof Method, great with marijuana. Keep some water nearby because your mouth gets extra dry, but it's great. And other breath techniques on marijuana, I really love the Buteyko method. That is pretty much the opposite of the Wim Hof. It's just nasal breathing, very similar to Oxygen Advantage, and that's another great tool because it's very grounding. Parts of the Wim Hof method breathing is grounding, some of it's not. The retention is quite grounding, but when you take that inhale, you blast off. But this other practice, Buteyko or Oxygen Advantage, does suppress your appetite. So it's amazing. I literally transformed my late night eating habits because I used to take weed every single day, and snacking after 8 p.m., 9 p.m., that was really tough for me. So I would just do 30 minutes of breath work instead and totally change that habit from something that was taking me away from myself, of like, just eating and eating, to a practice that took me deeper into myself. So, marijuana, we get a thumbs up. Again, not the universal opinion, just mine. Next, let's talk about LSD, or acid. So this is one that I don't have that much experience with. However, also a thumbs up. I found that doing it on a microdose was amazing, and also on a larger dose of acid. It felt really good. I was out in nature, I was with some friends. I've done it with someone. We held hands where we were both on it, and just like totally took us deeper into the beautiful experience. That being said, I don't have that much experience with LSD. I don't have much experience with acid, and I haven't really taken a huge dose. Like, I think I took like 3/4 of a hit. So I'm not really sure. From my experience, what I know, it's made in a lab, so it's man-made, so it carries that energy. From my experience, it's very heady. It's like dance or music or lights or thinking or productivity. So the practice of breath work can be a great tool to get out of that and just get into your body. It can also just enhance whatever you bring to the table. So, yeah, also it's very energizing. So it's a great way if you feel like you have so much energy. I've heard people describe that LSD as like a lot of nervous energy. So using the Wim Hof Method breath work, or infinity breath work, Buteyko breath work, yoga pranayama, it's a great way to take your energy and essentially you're circling it and creating more within yourself. It's a way of giving back to yourself from all that energy instead of just doing all these things on the outside. So you're refilling yourself from the inside out. So, acid, LSD plus Wim Hof breath work, thumbs up. Next, ayahuasca. Ayahuasquita. If you notice, I have a little shaker here and a guitar. Two things that often go together with ayahuasca ceremonies. And again, this is something that is very protected in the indigenous culture. So I want you to do your own research and not just take everything that I say as the truth. This has been my experience. However, in combining ayahuasca with the Wim Hof Method, first I'll just tell my story. So this was 2016, and I'd been getting chronic headaches at the time for months, about like 3, 4 months, every day I was getting a headache. So I was really beginning my healing journey. And I stumbled across the Wim Hof Method course, and I got super, super into it. I was doing breath work all the time, all day long, not in the shower, but at a restaurant, here or there. So right after I finished the 10-week course, I was still loving it. This was the original course. I did my first ayahuasca ceremony. And those two tools at the time were so pivotal in my awakening, in expanding my consciousness, and achieving peak states, whatever you want to call it. I started seeing lights separately, both. So when I brought them together, when I showed up for my first ayahuasca ceremony, Wim Hof was like, okay, he's my guy. I'm listening to his podcasts every day, learning about the science, cold showers all day long. And then I did it at an ayahuasca ceremony, and oh my gosh, words can't even explain what happened. Basically, what I would do is people were in a circle. This was the Brazilian tradition. So they were singing in a circle. I didn't know what the words were saying. So every time they were singing, I was just breathing, because I didn't want to bother people and be too loud. And then whenever they would pause the song, I would do a retention. And let's just say beautiful things came from all directions, all dimensions. I remember at one point the moon was talking to me. Wim Hof appeared and he was guiding me. He said, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Well, if you want to stop, you can, but keep going, keep going, keep going. So it was like his energy, his spirit came in. And so it was a beautiful experience. That being said, I want to say that from that moment, or from that first ceremony that I experienced, I remember I used the breathing as a way to suppress what my body was telling me. So it's common in ayahuasca ceremonies that people purge, they get well, they heal, and often that can take place in physical form. So you can throw up. I've had diarrhea. I've actually never thrown up, and this is the reason why. For some reason, I thought, don't throw up, don't throw up. I didn't want to throw up, and actually the facilitator at the time told me, hey, it's best if you don't throw up, keep the medicine in. So anytime I felt sick, I would just go into a round, and it helped, and I stayed in control. But looking back, I wasn't fully surrendered to the experience. I wasn't fully surrendered to what the medicine, what the teacher plant was trying to show me. So in these indigenous traditions, they believe that the plant spirits have a consciousness, and they come through to show us things, to teach us. So in that experience, I pushed it down. So that was the Brazil tradition, where it was pretty much fine, you can do whatever you want. In the Peru style, and I'm generalizing here, in the dark, it's often done. So it's pitch black, and that's more of a Vipassana meditation. And that's where the teachers that I've met and worked with would say, don't do any type of breath work that is that intense. Essentially, you want to surrender to the experience, because one may argue that if the medicine is showing me a vision or saying, my body's saying I need to throw up, that's a part of the healing process, that's a part of the experience. It's something that needs to happen, and if I'm breathing through it and resisting that flow of energy, then I'm getting in the way of the work of the medicine. So I've never thrown up from any psychotropic substance, except for Cambo, that's kind of the point. So if you're afraid of throwing up, this could be a good way to take that leap and try one of these substances and medicines if you feel called, because using the power of the breath, you can stay in control, which is why I believe breath work is so powerful just in general. It brings you back to one thing that you can control, especially since some of these substances can take us to dark places, whether they are inside of our psyche and shadows that we don't want to look at, or collective stuff, or just scary ghosts, or just energies, entities, whatever language people say. The breath can be a rock, of just right there. So Another thing to mention is I believe Wim Hof is a shaman. He doesn't say, hey, I'm a shaman, but to me, he lives the lifestyle of a shaman. Yeah, he may not, have the chants or sing the Icaros or do the dietas or with the plants, but he channels. He's got that energy. He's definitely gone beyond the culture and the societal norm and then came back with new wisdom and new teachings. So he embodies a lot of that shaman energy. And there's also a practice called Shamanic Breathing, which is very similar to the Wim Hof Method, but it's essentially you just take away the retentions and the breath holds and you just keep breathing, and it just takes you deeper and deeper and deeper. And I've heard that's used often with ayahuasca ceremonies, and I haven't personally participated in one and received that. However, every time I've ingested the medicine, or not every time, but many times I've used the practice, and it's always had great results. I could talk about ayahuasca and breath work for an entire 2 hours, to be honest. So for now, we'll stick with. Let's see, is there anything else around that? One more thing I will share is just a cool experience that I had with ayahuasca. At one point, I felt like I was breathing too tense, and I was forcing it, and the medicine was kind of teaching me to listen to my body, and it was like teaching me how to breathe. And I think that's something that's very important, because often people get caught up about the method and the technique and how do I breathe, and through my nose, through my mouth, and in the belly, and how hard and how long. And those are great questions, but you know the answer way better than any facilitator. If you really listen to your body will tell you. And there was one journey I had where my body was telling me like, ooh, fast, and now a little bit slower, gentle, now really slow, now really fast. And to me, that's just a reminder that wisdom is always there as long as I start to tune in and listen. So yeah, ayahuasca and Wim Hof Method, breathing, great. Quick note, I'm only talking about the breath work. I would not recommend ice baths with any psychotropics. Maybe marijuana, because it's more subtle. I've done it on mushrooms, and I wouldn't recommend it. And I'll maybe save that for another video. Ice baths should be done on their own, and be very, very, very careful. So that's what I'll share. That's the short version. Maybe I can make another video on cold and how that can relate with psychotropics and psychedelics. Because to be honest, these are potent, powerful substances, and it's important to really do research and understand what's going on, understand why things happen, make sure you're safe, setting all those other things before you experiment. Should have started with that. This is an informative video. I'm not recommending anything, just sharing my experience, because I know there's a lot of people out there like myself who want to do things and then look up on the internet if other people have done them before, and then I can learn from their experience and then combine their wisdom and their experience with my intuitive guidance and what feels right for me. So I hope that is your path, where you listen to what I say, but you follow your deepest truth more than anything. So I mentioned mushrooms. Mushrooms plus breath work. By now you're probably getting the point. Yes, I love doing mushrooms and combining it with breath work. I love breath work more than mushrooms, but combining, it's great. In the past, I love to do it at the beginning of the journey, especially on the come up, and that is because for me, mushrooms is kind of like you don't feel it and all of a sudden, boom! Where from my experience, ayahuasca, even peyote, I'm not as experienced with LSD, it's like, feel it, do you feel it, do you feel it? And then it's like gradual, and then mushrooms, it's just, at least for me, it's just like champagne, bottle pops open. So breathwork is a great way to just have something to do, and it takes me deeper into my body, and I also find it's great for any paranoia. If I'm starting to get paranoid, just come back to the breathwork, stay in control, and yeah, mushrooms are also very playful. If ayahuasca is the grandmother, peyote is the grandfather, San Pedro is the grandfather. I've heard mushrooms referred to as the children, so it's a very playful medicine. People laugh, think they grow out of poop, like they grow everywhere. So it just has this like, yeah, we don't really care, get messy, go out in nature, We can do some spiritual and introspective. We can see visions, or we can just stare at a flower and dance or whatever. So breath work on mushrooms is something that I recommend, and I've done. As you can tell, I just do breath work pretty much combined with everything, and that is why breath work is my favorite tool. And that's one thing I'll speak on just a little bit, is the breath is always there. It's better to keep your tools attached to you rather than for you to attach to the tools. So it's great to use breath work during these journeys, because in so many traditions I see people that show up and they give their power away to the plant. It was the MDMA, it was the ayahuasca, it was the mushrooms, it was the peyote, and they worship the plant. Where when you do breath work, you realize that it's actually you're part of the creation as well, and the plant has that energy and it adds to it. But when you do breath work in that environment and under the influence of those things, you can still maintain your personal breath work practice and then bring back the energy that you created. And it's something you can do on a consistent basis sustainably. So mushrooms is a yes. And lastly, peyote. So this is one I have very little experience. I've just attended 2 ceremonies where mushrooms, ayahuasca, and weed, I have a lot more experience. Let's just say enough to feel like I can make a credible video. Don't want to say exactly how much. Don't know who's watching. But peyote, I just sat 2 nights, and there's a fire in the middle. And I say that because it was really difficult to do breath work because there's a fire in the middle. And tobacco is also a big part of the ritual. Tobacco is also a part of some ayahuasca ceremonies as well. So you may have to do that, which I've done for hours at a time. Once I was sitting next to the shaman, he was smoking pretty much the whole night. So I was doing breath work in my shirt a lot. So it's difficult to do the breath work at a peyote ceremony. However, I found it was very practical, very grounding. It's nice, good way to center. However, with that, from my experience, it's a very communal experience. You're singing, we were singing together, but you chant together, you sit around the fire. It's very tribal, it's beautiful. It's got this beautiful ancient lineage, bringing in these traditions. And so what I noticed is it was almost like taking me away from the energy of the group, because I'm doing my own breathing. So it was then when I kind of created this, like, I'll do breath work, but make it look like I'm not doing it. So, you can imagine what that would look like. But it was also tough because of the fire. But in general, I found it was a great combination, and just a good way to move through any energy, whether it's trauma or whether it's anxiety. I find breath work is just a great tool to enhance your experience and take you back into your power, back into your truth, back into love. Wim Hof says the power of love. Yes, I do believe in that. So in closing, that is my experience of combining breath work, more specifically Wim Hof Method breath work. I've also combined Shamanic Breathing and done my own style infinity breath work, the branch that we've created, as well as Soma breath work. But from my experience, it's great to combine them. And let me see, is there any other substances to mention here? I think those are the ones that I feel drawn to speak about now. I want to close just by saying that I want you to be really, really, really careful. These are powerful substances. Don't underestimate them. They can teach you a very, very, very powerful lesson if you don't respect them. And that's happened to me. That's happened to very, very close female friends of mine. And I don't want that to happen to you. Or let me say, it doesn't have to happen to you. It's up to you. But I just want to emphasize caution. And trusting yourself, trusting the people you're around. If you want to reach out and ask me a question, I just want to make sure that this is not causing any danger for anyone out there. This is just a YouTube video. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a licensed trauma expert. I just want to share my experience. based on where I'm at, because I'm just a young adult trying to find my way in the world. So, thank you for watching. If you like this video or have any questions or want to comment, please, we can keep the discussion going. I don't want to feel like I am the credible source here. I want to hear from you guys. I know there's a lot of smart people out there on the interweb who can share their experience and perhaps have counter arguments of things that I shared, and maybe can create more truth and more understanding around, maybe there is danger out there that I haven't personally encountered. So I just want to make sure that we can all be safe here. Otherwise, thank you for watching. Leave a comment. If there's any other topic you'd like me to make a video about, please let me know. And lastly, I'll just close that in these times it's very challenging. Our external environment is changing rapidly. There's a lot of fear in the air. So I really recommend going into your inner world and working on yourself, dealing with the monkey mind, getting out of the prison that the mind can create for you. And whether it's through breath work, whether it's through medicine, psychedelics, whether it's through seeing a psychologist, journaling, hiring a coach, whatever it is, I just really want to recommend that you reclaim your power from whatever's going on outside by creating a peaceful place on the inside. So, thank you for watching. Look forward to engaging with you in the comments. Please subscribe, and I will talk to you soon. Ooh, and lastly, we are putting together an online breathwork course, Infinity Breathwork, teaching some breath techniques and other mental and emotional and spiritual practices as well. So if you are interested in that, stay tuned, because there's more coming. If you're watching this 10 years in the future, then sorry, I have no idea what I'm doing now. So check my website for what's the latest stuff. All right, goodbye for real now. Peace and safe journeying.